Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is where I can help you become a better artist. Now, if you're wondering what was on the thumbnail, this is the exact drawing. We are not drawing a dragon today, but I just wanted to show you how you can mix quick sketching and line work with detail work when you know where to put it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move my sketchbook over and I'm going to sketch something here on the right, and then you can look back at this for context, okay? We're going to do something a little different today. Since I specialize in creatures, we're just going to do a slight little environment. And I'm going to do this rather quickly to show you the power of gesture sketching. Now, those of you that cannot draw creatures, but you're a figure drawer, or maybe you do industrial design or whatever, this can definitely apply to anything that you're sketching. What I like doing first is giving myself a little bounding box. Now, as far as the techniques of actually sketching fast, I'm not really holding my pencil tightly. All I'm doing is I'm letting my hand freely flow across the page. Now, I'm standing right behind my phone. That's what I'm recording this on. And while standing, I'm allowed to look straight down at the picture so I can get a proper perspective. Speaking of perspective, that is also something that we're going to be going over. I have a lot of lessons planned, just regular foundation drawing, composition, perspective, how to do it all by eyeball, so you don't have to use a ruler and you don't have to grid anything out, put a vanishing point, horizon line, all that stuff. Okay, first things first. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the foreground here, and right off the bat, I know that I want the foreground right here to stick out more than anything else. All of these suggestive lines that I'm putting in here, while coupled together, will form something cooler later on. This is the really good exploratory phase. Now, if you're a figure drawer and you're drawing the human body, same thing can apply when you're getting the gesture down of how the human is standing or sitting, leaning, however they're posed. And the cool thing about this is I don't really care what's happening right now. The only thing I care about, let me rephrase that. I don't care about details right now. All I care about is just laying out a cool drawing. So what I'm doing here is making the scenery as dynamic as possible. I'm already imagining that the vanishing point is probably somewhere off of the page here. Now I'm going to darken everything just a little bit so you can see it on the video. Okay, so there's the bounding box. I like giving myself a little bounding box strictly because it allows me to keep myself in check and not compartmentalize my drawing, but it helps me not add too much unnecessary clutter on the outsides of my picture. Sometimes I'll do this with my creatures where if I want to do not necessarily a comic or a graphic novel type setting, but rather I want to tell a story. You know, I'm laying out a presentation board, I'm doing a sketch here, a sketch here, a sketch here. You want to be able to keep things as neat as possible. That's why I kind of obsess about my thumbnail sketching whenever I do creatures. But anyway, back to the landscape. Okay, so I'm just going to put in some thick to thin lines and I'm going to squeeze them all together. I'm going to channel my inner Bob Ross here. I used to watch Bob Ross when I was a kid and how he'd do happy trees and happy clouds, and dude was just amazing. I love Bob Ross. Okay, so right here, putting in some pine trees. Look at the amount that I'm scribbling. This is the fun part. Now I'm going to put in some darkness for the trunk of the tree. Okay, now I know that since the light source is coming from above, that everything up here is going to be lighter than what it is down here. All right, so now I'm just going to add in some, maybe a semi-broken tree that maybe fell or grew crooked over time. Of course, these trees in the front will be a little darker. This is the power of layering scribbles on top of each other. Because what happens is, we as artists, we think that if we hone in on these little areas and we just cluster together details and everything, then it becomes more realistic. And that is farther from the truth when it comes to gesture sketching and it's still looking good. So let me explain. When you see a painting by Chuck Close, okay, those of you that don't know Chuck Close he was an amazing painter. He would do these huge paintings, and when you look at them up close, it's just a bunch of little dots and markings of paint together. But when you back up, it all forms into this beautiful painting. You know, it's like Monet. All of those old school painters, when they would paint on those huge canvases, you would see it come together. And it was just a bunch of little lines put together, but put together strategically. So right here, I know that obviously a pine tree has pines. All right. And all of these are a little random because nature is random. So those of you that specialize in environment design, I have somebody that I respect in the industry. His name's Horia Dochu. He was my mentor, and he taught me a lot. And he said, Bobby, stop doing bad trees. And I said, what do you mean? He said, every time that I would paint an environment painting, I would put a lot of detail in the rocks, river, humans walking by, creatures, plants, but my trees sucked. And trees are one of the most prominent aspects of an environment painting if you're going to do something in a forest or something like that. And I realized that the better my trees looked, everything else could kind of not be good, and it would still pass on as a pretty decent environment sketch. And that's because trees hold a lot of value in anchoring certain land masses, certain hillsides, brings your eye into places that you normally wouldn't think of. So for example, this tree that's leaning to the left, it's causing me to look to my left, where in turn I'm going to have something over here. Now, if you want to do the rule of thirds, which is, I'm not going to get into the rule of thirds in depth, but I could definitely sketch the rule of thirds right here. Like broke it into threes, going vertically and horizontally. I have these intersecting lines, little circles. I want to have something significant happen within the area of these four intersecting pieces. So my first intersecting piece is this lower right set of cubes, and it's going to intersect right here. Well, this is where I have the cluster of trees. One is slightly off. So that brings in interest point number one. Interest point number two, I have way off here in the distance. Maybe I want to do like this really cool rock cluster. My hand, as I said before, I'm drawing with my shoulder. So I'm allowing my pencil to flow freely back and forth. And I'm slightly pushing harder on areas where I want to bring in just slightly more significance. I don't know if that's going to be a building per se. Maybe it's a little too dark. I don't know. This is the beauty of doing a thumbnail. Okay, so my eye is traveling down here now. Maybe I can put in some rocks. Now the rocks that I'm going to put in on this hillside are going to be slightly darker than everything back here in this field, because I want it to be a field. Now, here's the thing where I need to think of. The trees are on a hillside that's in front of those rocks. So that means that the hillside, probably those lines, will need to be even darker than the rocks. There you go. Now I'm going to add in hatching, because maybe there's some shadow from some of the trees that are flowing down. Because remember, the light's from above. So the point of the tree comes out here. So if straight down, there's going to be a shadow right there. I don't want to go overboard. What I do want to do is maybe add some shrubbery, some foliage right underneath that tree. This is a really good method that we use in concept art when we're doing environment sketching, when we just quickly want to hash out an idea. It's not going to be a finalized idea. We're not going to use this in a game or anything, but it offers some kind of like a cool little gateway into what could be. So here's a path. Maybe I want to bring that path to that area back here. I don't know what this is. Okay, maybe the brief was a small abandoned town in the background with some castles and buildings. There's a path and there's trees, and it's a dimly lit day. Boom. Okay, cool. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to honor the breaking it up in a rule of thirds. Okay, we have an intersecting point here. That is the building. We have an intersecting point here. Those are the trees. We had an intersecting point behind the trees, so maybe I can make a mountain come up and there's the peak. But it's so light in the background that the atmosphere is taking it. But we know that the peak is right there, because wouldn't it be cool is if we have some trees coming up here and just a slight hinting of the peak can show through there, and there's the tree in the foreground to show you that it's in front. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some value to the tree like this. All right, so there we go. So now you can start to see this environment happening, and it's becoming more dynamic. I'm going to put in some gesture lines of just my mind wandering across here. Maybe there's like a rock that's millions of years old that's been on this hillside forever. Maybe there's a slight other boulder right here that we can kind of see. If you notice my bounding box, okay, I'm going outside of it, and that's one of the beauties of gesture sketching. So when you look over here to my dragon warrior, I guess you could call it, there's a lot of detail in here, but the neck, I mean, look at how loose the neck is. I gave indications of where I want the spine armor to go, but that's really it. And then there's more detail in the guns and the headgear and stuff. So like over here, I have to ask myself, where do I want to put the details in this to really draw the eye? And now that I'm thinking of it, probably a path. Now the path could be up here. I did have a path down here. So what if it did this? What if I just slightly drew darker on the outside, so maybe the dirt is of lighter tone than the grass, and then it comes down the hill. Okay, you can see the path right here, and then all of a sudden, right here there's a drop off, so maybe the human has to walk down a slightly steeper part of the hill, and then you can see it as it wraps around here. So there's the darkness of the grass compared to the dirt, and then all of a sudden you have it down here, and then there could be, farmland down there. Who knows what's down there? And then maybe some indications of some taller trees, some pine trees that I'm just going to slightly scribble in. So my hand, I'm keeping it really loose. I'm not holding it tightly or anything. I'm just letting my mind go, thick to thin lines, pushing harder, letting go, pushing harder, letting go, and not being afraid to overlap my sketches. Okay, so maybe there's some in the background here. Okay, like that. So now we can start to see this layering effect. It looks quite empty right here. I don't want the top of this mountain that I'm going to put in the same height as the one here. This is a really important part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this intersection open, part of the rule of thirds. There's a hill back here. What if I drew a cliff and it was really steep and I stopped right there and that's it? And then here, maybe there's a cluster of clouds in the sky. So I'm going to draw that cliff a little darker. And then maybe there's some pine trees way in the distance up there. So I'm going to scribble in the pine trees like that. And then all of a sudden up here, there's some clouds that sneak in. And then right where that intersection is, maybe I have the moon. So maybe it's an evening setting. Maybe it's dusk. Okay, and then there's some flat part of the cloud. So sun's going down. It's evening time. It's beautiful out. Okay, we have this path, this mysterious path that a character can go down. So we don't really know where the character wants to go. There we go. I'm going to darken some of that hillside right here. I'm going to put in some bushes. So I'm just going to shake my hand a little bit. My phone's probably shaking too. I have my phone attached to this thing I ordered off of Amazon. It's you put your cell phone in it and it just clamps it together. It's kind of the typical phone clamp if you want to record or whatever. The problem is I shake any desk that I draw on, like any desk. It doesn't matter. So that's why I'm in the process of purchasing a nicer camera, an actual studio lighting. So you guys are going to notice within the next month or two, there's going to be a video where you're going to see a drastic change in the lighting and also video quality. I'm trying my hardest here, but I'm staying dedicated, so I'm going to make sure that this works out well. Okay, so here, this is what I would do. Okay, so now when you sketch like this, it allows your brain to flow freely because I'm not obsessing about any part of this whatsoever. If you do 30 of these, just imagine the library that you're going to build for yourself when you can have all these loose sketches and then you can take something and be like, huh, you know what? Maybe I can scan this in and then maybe I can paint over it and have a finalized piece. And there's some hatching right there for that cliffside. Maybe the building itself needs to be a little bit more pronounced. So maybe I'll just put some darkness in there. All right, and then this is how I would practice, guys. You know, you can sign it, boom, done. So, yeah, it's easier said than done, but please know that if you just sharpen your pencil, open your sketchbook, and actually draw without thinking, your line work's going to improve drastically. Okay. Now, if you want to warm up, you can just take your sketchbook and thick to thin, thick to thin, thick to thin, thick to thin, like this. Get used to that movement really quick, really quick. The ability of applying pressure and then releasing the pressure in one stroke is not only going to give you better lines, it's also going to help you shade better too. And I'll get into more of that. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed today's lesson. You guys are awesome, by the way. And I will see you in the next video. Later.